to say, well, if you don't win the national championship, you failed. But to me, that was the truth. Well, in this situation, I really, to an extent, don't care what you do in the regular season with baseball. It's what do you do in the postseason? Do you win your regional? Do you host a super regional? Do you win your super regional? Do you go to Omaha? If you go to Omaha, I don't really care what the regular season record was. The season is a success.
I can.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I get with that. I get with that. But when you go back, if we're using that, what Dawn Staley said when she was giving her speech for the football team, she was saying how there's high moments over here, there's high moments over here. The meat and potatoes of the season is what makes the year. And when you have this team, there's a very fine line between describing this team as not bad or a good team. I think right now you could describe them. They're not a bad team. They're not. They're not a bad team, as indicated by their top 25. They're in the top 24, Bill.
True.
They're not top 25. They're top 24. That's not bad, but is that good? And
It's the expectation around here. It's the expectation around here that has been driven up by 40-ish, 50-ish years of quality baseball. Because, quite frankly, I don't know how many, 80, 90% of teams across the country would look at South Carolina and be like, "That's a good season." Fans here go, "Well, wait a minute, that's not what we had 15 years ago. That's not what Ray Tanner was doing." There's your differences. Again, there's a lot of teams out. There's a lot of women's basketball teams who would look at Tennessee and would be like, "Whew, that was really good."
Yeah.
What you did was really good. Tennessee women's basketball looks around and went, "It's not what we're accustomed to." And I think that's what you deal with if you're the head baseball coach at the University of South Carolina. Being good is not good enough.
Yeah, and yes, but I'm trying to decide if this team is good. I'm saying they're not. I'm saying they're not bad. They're not bad.
They're a top 25 team. Are they a top 12 team? Are they? If you
I don't know where the line is for good.
If you broke it down, you said, all right, 12, 13, halfway in the top 25. The expectation is to be inside of that top 13. We'll just use 13 as the number. 24 is not inside the top 13. 803-404-6100. Let's get out to the Love Chevy phone lines. Ted, you got about a minute here. I apologize cutting you short, but you're going to have about a minute.
1 minute.
Go right ahead.
All right. Number one, the biggest problem we got on that team is we cannot hit the friggin' baseball. We do not swing the bats. I saw several guys this past weekend stand up there and take 3 call strikes. We are not aggressive. All we look for is base on balls. They've done it all year. They love that we're leading the nation in base on balls, probably in strikeouts too, and call strike threes. My goodness, why don't he wake up and realize he's losing the games? If you look at how many men that we score when they're on base, I think like 2 out of 18 times in batting, it's ridiculous. They're the worst hitting team I've ever seen in my life in South Carolina. I do not know why we cannot hit the baseball. We never swing at a first pitch, hardly ever swing at a second pitch. We're always looking for the daggum base on balls. And I am so sick of his excuses. He's been there, and we still play the same identical stuff. And he needs to wake up and quit belly aching about his schedule. Everybody plays a tough schedule. Hit the stinking baseball, and all your little problems will be over, Kingston. Wake up, buddy. Thank you.
Ted's got a point on
Appreciate
that.
it, Ted.
Ted's got a point that I don't know how to – this is where a baseball expert needs to weigh in because I don't know how to break this down. South Carolina leads the nation, 281 walks. South Carolina is oops, wrong one. South Carolina is third in the nation in strikeouts. So they lead the nation in walks with 281. They're third in the nation with 406 strikeouts.
I can take a crack at that.
All right, we'll let you try that. We'll wrap up hour number 1. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, she's Jen Jensen. It's the early game. 6:48 as we get you up and get you going here on a Tuesday morning. Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, back and in studio. And feels nice kind of to be back. I can semi control the temperature in here as opposed to the last Friday and yesterday, where I think because of the heat, because we had been outside, the air conditioners kicked on at about 7:30 a.m.
Bill, it's just the difference between playing at home or playing on the road.
Yeah.
You know, when you're at home,
I don't control
you know where everything is. You know the length of the grass. You understand how the walls are out there and the warning track. You get all the stuff. Things may happen, but when you're on the road, you know, I mean, Friday, you know, can you get in? Is it going to be freezing?
Yeah.
Internet. Does the outlet work?
I like the kid. Will you be allowed in as Friday?
The road is tough, man. You got to overcome. You got to battle. You got to bring your toughness, and you got to bring all of that stuff with you on the road when you travel.
Glad to be back home.
We're on a homestand.
Glad to be back home here, at least for today and tomorrow, before heading back over to Fort Jackson for the Chamber Tournament, where we will broadcast live Thursday morning. You can. I was going to say you could come out and see us, but there's some special requirements to be able to come out and see us. So if you're playing in that particular tournament, you'll be able to see us. If you're not playing, then you probably no need to worry about it. The early game will be live, the Chamber of Commerce tournament, Thursday morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. over at Fort Jackson. 803-404-6100. A couple of y'all weighing in, agreeing with what Ted said. Beth from Lamar, amen, with multiple exclamation points followed behind it. Richard saying, now that's a hardcore truth, my man. Love it. And then Justin saying, go watch Coastal play. Now, that is fun. Hits and runs, steals, bunts, homers. They do it all and have fun and swag while doing it. So a couple people agreeing there with Ted. That is an interesting statistic to both lead the nation in walks at 281 and to be third in the nation in strikeouts at 406.
Yeah, what I would glean from that, and I haven't played baseball in a really long time, but it seems as if the team is waiting on the perfect pitch, the pitch that you can drive, the pitch that you can hit the long ball with, optimizing every single at bat. If it's not your pitch, you don't swing at it. And that approach can work. However, I love the approach of maybe towards a Coastal type approach of putting pressure on the defense by putting the ball in play, making them make plays instead of you having to wait for the perfect pitch, make the perfect swing, and hit the perfect ball. No, you take what you can get and you put pressure on them through just putting the ball in play. And it's no secret you cannot do that with the bat on your shoulder. And so maybe expanding your strike zone, expanding the acceptable pitches that you're willing to hit, that might be what you need to do to sort of break through an offensive, it's not a slump, but the times when you're not as productive on offense.
Just glancing, because there's 305 teams in Division I baseball, and South Carolina is 204th in batting average at 266 on the season. But to your point, if you're just sitting there waiting on that perfect pitch, yeah, you're going to miss a couple. The stats that I'm looking at does not have caught looking or struck out looking right now. But again, they're hanging around. The question is, are they good enough to get to Omaha? And I think a lot of people here are going, no. They're good enough to get to postseason play. Probably good enough to host a regional, probably good enough based on the metrics, the statistics, the RPIs, and so forth and so on. But are they good enough to get to Omaha, which is the expectation level for this team? Much like now the expectation for Dawn Staley has been to get to the Final Four. That's almost become the bare minimum.
Well, the difference is Dawn Staley and crew have been there. This team has not been there in a very long time. So they're basing the expectations on nostalgia. I don't know what
Is that fair?
Well, yeah. I mean, they get the job he takes, he's compensated as if this is a big-time job. So, yeah, I think it's fair, but I think it's maybe not smart because this team hasn't done that, hasn't really lived up to any of those expectations. So they haven't been, so we can't expect them to go someplace they've never been.
803-404-6100. We'll continue to watch it. It's really, like I said, just get to the end of the season and then you can make everybody will make a full assessment, and at that point, I think I guess there will be answers. I don't know. It's hard to say as we sit now. Again, the Gamecocks will have Kentucky this weekend. They've still got Georgia. They got a trip to Missouri. They've got Kentucky, then a trip to Missouri, then Georgia at home, and then the final series of the season on the road at Tennessee. So again, 3 of those 4 against ranked teams, 2 of those against top 4 teams in Kentucky and Tennessee. As we sit here today, 803-404-6100. Coming up in the next hour, we'll catch up with J.C. Sherbert, talk a little bit more about that spring game, to which, I don't know, maybe we'll play some clips from other coaches and we'll play a game. Is that a South Carolina coach or a different coach? You have to kind of decipher the voice. Coach Beamer's voice is pretty distinct, but are they talking about South Carolina?
We need to put it through a voice modulator or something. And
just have one voice and say, did Shane Beamer say this about his team? Or is this another coach talking about their team? As a couple spring games over the weekend, Mike Elko for Texas A&M. Jeff Levy, you mentioned the offensive explosiveness. Steve Sarkisian talking about his game. And Jen's right, we'll also let you hear from Aaron Boone on an embarrassing ejection yesterday. Yankees lost, by the way, to the A's. That's embarrassing in and of itself. The Yankees losing 2-0 to the A's and falling apart there. So still, good time yesterday. Again, thanks to everybody out there at Woodlands Country Club yesterday who hosted us. Thank you to Jonathan Alston. Did you swing a golf club yesterday?
I managed to. Does putting count?
Good enough.
All right. Yeah, I did putt yesterday. Missed.
Saw Langston out there, and he was hacking away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the best word.
He was having a good time, but that course is not the same today after some of those football players.
I saw a lot of signs talking about replace your divots and all that type of stuff. I'm sure they wanted to inform that yesterday.
Hour 2 on the way. You're listening to the early game.
Hey, it's Jen for CHW Cabinetry in Lexington, and we had to redo our kitchen due to a flood. Had to totally take it down to the studs, and I'm telling you, I was not in the mood for finding, what cabinets will be great and all of that. And it got to the point where it's like, okay, we need to do this. And so we went to CHW Cabinetry in Lexington, and they just totally changed my outlook. They made it such a great experience trying to pick out the accessories and figure out what design and the layout and everything. And then once we did all that, we got that photorealistic rendering that looked like our kitchen was finished before it was, and that was great because then we could take that to pick out flooring and backsplashes and all of that. And they do more than kitchens, I'll tell you. They do closets, they do pantries. We just got a cabinet for a bathroom upstairs. They are fantastic to work with. I encourage you to reach out, visit them at chwcabinetry.com or call them today at 803-520-6837. Tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry, passion from inspiration to installation. Taking a peek at those traffic conditions out there this morning, we're looking at all accidents having been cleared. Just got that word. There was one on I-20 westbound, but that has been cleared. No really other accidents to speak of. There is a report of a little bit of patchy dense fog, so be cautious out and about. Make sure your low beam headlights are on. And we're looking for a high of 75 today under sunny skies. 80 tomorrow, 79 for Thursday and Friday before we get into the 80s, the low to mid 80s for the weekend. Right now it's a little cooler, 43.
Up and at 'em, kids, 7 a.m. on a, there we go, 7 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, as we get you up and get you going here fresh off of a fun day out on the golf course over at the Woodlands for the Beyond Now Foundation as we, I hacked it up pretty, although my team finished first in the third flight, to which Jonathan said we really were the first loser.
Okay, all right. Okay.
He basically put down everything that my team accomplished yesterday. Chris Monty, Chris Heiler, Jim Thompson. We shot a nice 60, played well. Kind of, as they say, brother-in-lawed it up a little bit. One of them would hit a good shot on one hole. The other three would not. Next shot, somebody else would step up and make the shot. And I got to give Jim Thompson credit. One of the best putters I've ever been around. You have a hard time believing him sometimes, but when you get him on the green and you watch him, he was fairly impressive, and we did just enough to get to a 60 and win the third flight, to which then we got soaps and candles and a neat little gift basket that, as Jonathan said, represented not being very good at golf, which I thought was very, very unfair. But nonetheless, 803-404-6100. Joining us now, as he does each and every Tuesday, a man who's in town himself, J.C. Sherbert. And how you feeling this morning, young man?
I feel great. Feel really good. Had a golf tournament yesterday, the Vicksburg.com golf tournament, and flying out later today from CAE, which I know is an advertiser there on 107.5. So glad to patronize that very fine airport that does not give you the headaches of some airports. And so heading back today, but it's been a good week and a day down here, kind of getting reacquainted with things and watching a little Gamecock football and doing some work and things like that. It's been a very good trip down here. I tell you, I'll be honest with you, Bill. I thought y'all didn't have a show today because I'm so used to getting that call at 6. It's Central Time. So I was up at 6, and nobody calls. I'm like, well, dang, I guess they didn't have a show. But so the time zone threw me off for the first time this morning. So.
I just want to add on to that, man. If you have a chance to fly and your flight can go out of CAE, do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor and fly out of there. It's so much more convenient.
Oh, yeah.
Than driving up somewhere.
It's
an awesome airport.
They've improved it.
It's a beautiful airport, too. I mean, it's new, modern, clean. I mean, some airports, O'Hare, compared to O'Hare, good God.
Yeah.
Well, good luck. Yeah, I agree. I have not flown out of CAE in a while. I've not flown in a while, but I actually was looking over the weekend at tickets maybe to Norman, Oklahoma. The question is I think it's a good idea because I'm going to take the kids. I'm going to take my kids to Alabama because it's drivable. What is that? That's October 12th. And one of the reasons I'm doing it is so that my daughter, who will be a freshman in high school this year, can go see another campus. Go, all she's accustomed to is the University of South Carolina and walking around the campus. So I want her to go see what another campus looks like as she starts her high school journey. And as I sit here in April, I'm like, oh, back-to-back weekends of traveling to football games. That sounds like a great idea. When I get to October and you see me in the morning, I'm like, ugh, I'm not sleeping in on Saturday. This was what dumb thought did I have back in April? And the other part will be is when we get to those Alabama and Oklahoma games, we're going to kind of know who South Carolina is, I think, at that point, given the early season schedule. And that leads us into, JC, your thoughts on what you saw Saturday night. What did you take away from the spring game?
Well, I mean, it's hard to compare them to everybody else because I didn't see everybody else, especially in person. And I've learned through the years I'm a little bit better, probably a lot better in when I see teams in person and players and things like that than just on TV. But I thought probably what everybody else thought. The defense has improved its athleticism, size. I mean, they look like they have SEC type personnel on that side of the ball. I thought that, Lenore Sellers obviously was very impressive for a spring game. I thought, it wasn't just necessarily the plays he was making with his arms and his legs. It was, his poise and accuracy. And then, we all know he's fast, but he's real quick in the pocket too. I mean, he made some moves, elusiveness-wise, that really kind of stood out to me. So I really like that about him. I thought the running backs are obviously better than last year. I don't think they're going to miss Mario Anderson at all. Just to be honest, there's nothing against Mario. He's having a good go of it out at Memphis. But, I think these guys are a step above, and that's not even counting Rocket Sanders. Really thought Jawan Howell looked good. But there's some holes there, obviously. People are going to talk about the receivers. I didn't look at that as a position that had no hope. I think it's a position that there's a lot of the same types of guys. There's not a lot of variety there, but they got some capabilities kind of in the speed department and stuff like that. And he's got to scheme them open, things like that. But, but it was a kind of a vanilla offense, too. I mean, they weren't running anything crazy, didn't go downfield a whole lot. But, defensive personnel and certainly – when you look at running back and, positions like that, they kind of restocked. They're definitely upgrades.
We'll get more into it, but you talk about the vanilla offense. How different, and I'll ask both of you this, was that just the base offense, you think, of what they want to do, and then they build in some of the other run schemes that Sean Elliott wants to run, and maybe some of the new passing schemes that maybe you take advantage of with Lenore Sellers as opposed to Spencer Rattler. Is that what we saw on Saturday night? I'm assuming, Preston, I'll start with you. Do you think that that's what it is, that there's just a base 5, 6, 8 plays that we saw?
I hope so. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with having a base offense and knowing who you are and what you want to do out of the offense. I don't have any problem with it. But I also don't really believe in not putting stuff on tape because these guys are professional coaches. They're not that much. When you start talking about those conversations, it's really more about tendencies. What do you tend to do? What do you plan on doing? Game plan, etc. So I don't have any problem putting it all on tape and, we'll get to the season.
JC, your thoughts?
I've got it with Preston. Not that now I don't have a strong opinion either way, putting it on tape or not. I think in the grand scheme of things, I've seen coaches come through here and run a bunch of stuff in the street game. I've seen coaches not, and it really kind of turns out the same way. I mean, it just kind of depends on, like Preston said, tendencies and who's out coaching who on a given day, or whose players, more importantly, are out playing the other ones. That's the most important part of it. But I hope so. I mean, it doesn't make any sense with the personnel they have to not implement Sean Elliott's run game. I don't think it's proven to have worked It worked at Georgia State. I mean, even the games they lost, you look and they pile up rushing yards. It's hard to stop. You got a running quarterback that can also throw. That's a dangerous thing. And you got a bunch of running backs and an improved offensive line. And what you don't have is a bunch of receivers where you can go out there and go 5 wide and feel comfortable doing it and chucking it all over the yard. So, and of course, they didn't last year either. But I would hope it's not just kind of a little outside zone they did, and I think that's outside zone. And then they did some inside runs as well. That's not taking full advantage of what you got coaching wise and player wise, in my opinion. So, but I'm not gonna. I don't really ask my contacts, hey, what plays are you gonna run? I mean, that's kind of a taboo subject, right? So I can't sit here and lie to tell you without a shadow of a doubt that's what they're going to do, because I don't know beyond a shadow of a doubt, but I would assume, that's you're going to see a lot of different stuff, more creativity in the run game, things like that, and really more creativity overall. I mean, Dowell Loggins told us in the press conference, you can see vanilla ice cream, and I've learned to believe that guy whenever he says something. So he said it, and it was true, but man, oh man, I mean, just the poise in the pocket for your first kind of hey, I'm Lenore Sellers. I'm the favorite to win the starting job. I'm in front of a crowd. I mean, the poise he played with, even though it was a lot of short passes and stuff, and knowing how to stick with it before, and then knowing when to run. I mean, I thought all that was really, really good on Saturday night on his part, because a lot of times guys that can run will bail early and stuff, but he didn't. So I was kind of I've been high on him for a while, but
Okay. You still there? There you are. I hear you back.
Yeah.
803-404-6100. It again, we'll talk more about this. I also want to get your thoughts on any guys in particular that stood out that maybe we didn't talk about. I've got 2 guys in particular that I'll get to that I thought had good nights that we had not been talking about. We talked about Dylan Stewart. We had talked about Lenore Sellers. We talked about those running backs. I'll give you 2 guys that I thought kind of impressed me. We'll get your take on that as well. Let Preston get a little football handsy on some of the techniques of Dylan Stewart, or as he called him yesterday, Dylan Stewart. Ready to call him Dylan Clowney, maybe. We'll get into all that. Yeah, we were overhyping it yesterday. We'll have to give you some of our overhyped takes and just let you weigh in on those as we go through the morning. My favorite is that poor Arch Manning will never win a Heisman after his great spring practice at Texas, because Lenore Sellers will beat him out twice. That was my favorite. So, yeah. You see where we were going with it yesterday, JC. We'll get to some of that and again get to some guys that maybe stood out you didn't expect. 803-404-6100. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for Old Timey Meat Market. You know why? One of the reasons that I love Old Timey Meat Market, besides the actual food that you get, the actual great cuts of beef, pork, poultry, of the exotic meats. We've done alligator tail before, and you've heard me talk about that. The reason I love them is because of the way they treat their customers. It's a non-grocery store meat buying experience. The folks at Old Timey Meat Market, they want to meet you. They want to know your name. They want to provide you with the best variety and grades of meat available anywhere here in the Midlands. So go visit one of their 3 great stores, South Congaree, St. Andrews Road in Irmo, or the Lexington store. You can pick up a 5-pound box of chicken breast, maybe a 5-pound box of ribeye steaks, or, of course, you can even get hot dogs. Had some of those over the weekend. Absolutely fantastic. That is the only way to describe Old Timey Meat Market. So find out for yourself. Go visit Old Timey Meat Market today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
And as far as the traffic conditions are concerned, we are looking at really just a little bit of patchy dense fog, I-20 eastbound and westbound between Broad River Road and Monticello Road, but nothing too severe. Nothing that some low beam headlights won't take care of. But actually, the sun is coming out, so that should be burning off pretty quickly. Oh, man, having a bill morning. 75 for a high today, 80 tomorrow, and 79 for Thursday and Friday before we get into the low to mid-80s for the weekend. But right now, it is a cooler start, 44 on the early game.
Reminder, the craft beer card is back. You can spend $79 for just a $360 value, and it only costs, again, $79. Go to 1075thegame.com and click on Sweet Deals. It's 12 craft beer locations where at each one you'll spend $30. That's a $360 value, but you can get it for only $79. It's the craft beer card. Go to 1075thegame.com and click on Sweet Deals to get your craft beer card today. 803-404-6100. That's how you can join us if you want to do so. If you want to text in a question for JC on the Firehouse Subs text line this morning as we talk a little spring game right now, kind of start to put the bow on that. And JC, Preston, going back, all right, I was really interested to see Lenore Sellers. I was really, really interested to see Dylan Stewart. I wanted to see these running backs, Jawan Howe, DJ Braswell, who I thought stood out a little bit. I wanted to see Oscar Attaway. One of the guys, though, that really caught my attention was Tyshawn Russell. That's a guy that they landed late. Justin Stepp landed late in the recruiting process 2 years ago. Kind of came on at the end of last year. Also had some drops. He had only 2 catches on Saturday night. But JC, Preston, that's a guy that I kind of now will keep a close eye on or listen maybe a little bit more for off-season reports for what he can do, because he has, JC, correct me if I'm wrong, he has a element of speed to him that South Carolina has not had or does not have.
Yeah, well, I mean, Larvadane's fast, and Brown's supposed to be fast, and, I think the kid from Dillon,
Huggins, Bruce,
his one catch, he was a little, but yeah, Tyshawn's fast. I mean, he showed it last year when he caught that deep pass from Sellers in the Furman game, and then I felt bad for the guy because, man, against Missouri, he ran a great route, slant route. Spencer hit him in the hands. He would have walked in the end zone in that game. And, of course, I don't think the Gamecock scored a touchdown in that one, but he dropped it. And he's a freshman, but he's got some promise to him, I think, really. I think he'll we didn't see a lot of Larvadane downfield on Saturday, but he's been really good in practice as well. But yeah, you're right. I think Tyshawn Russell, if you kind of think about natural progression of receivers, he did some things last year as a freshman, and you expect him to take a step. And that's no pun intended. Step. There's no reference to Justin Step. You expect him to be better and catch some of those he didn't, and he looked like he was pretty sure-handed in the game Saturday night. So I'm with you there. I think he, when you're looking for answers at receiver, he is one of the answers.
So as an answer to receiver, I always talk about having different varieties of guys in the receiver room. Would Tyshawn be more of a speed, slottish guy that can make some things happen after the catch?
Yeah, and then they're all kind of that way, Preston. So that would be silly question, I think, as far as because you do have Nick Harbor who's different, but other than that, there are all these guys that are like 5'10" to 6 foot, 170 to 190 pounds, more speed guys than jump ballers. I've seen it work around here like that before. I mean, you had Pharaoh Cooper, Bruce Ellington, Ace Sanders, Nick Jones. I mean, those guys were all the same a few years back, but Shaq Rowland was a little taller. But, the Smurfs with the Redskins back in the day, we all remember them. I think the Houston Oilers, when Jerry Glanville was there, had some diminutive receivers that were really good. But it is nice to have that variety. That is something I look for, too. And, that's something in the transfer portal that, this while it's open, that's something South Carolina's really looking for is, some bigger bodies at that spot to get in there and compete and get some snaps and have some variety at that position.
So that's on offense. Either of you got a guy that maybe we had not talked about, whether it's an offensive lineman or somebody that stood out that we have not talked about? Because I'm going to go to one defensively yesterday that we did an overreaction to, but offensively, JC, was there a guy that maybe, again, we haven't been discussing that stood out to you a little bit more?
Offensively, I'm going to go with Torricelli Simpkins. I mean, he won the Toughness Award.
I was actually, I wasn't, real quick, I wasn't surprised by that in the manner of like, wow. But for him to come in, because of Preston's friendship with Cedric there at North Carolina A&T, Preston has talked a lot about him. And just to see the impact, I'm starting to think he's a guy, and I'll turn it back over to you, that is definitely in the running to be an interior guard or interior lineman starting in game one.
Yeah, he's kind of been running with the twos this spring, and then I think Marquis Anderson gets healthy, and then I think Torricelli will beat that. I don't know who he's going to beat out, so I don't know. I don't know who you take out because there's some pretty good competition on the interior right now. But I think Marquis and Torricelli both is kind of looking for guys that we're not necessarily in the projected starting five now that could end up overtaking some people. It is those two for real. And, even South Carolina State staff talked really highly of him. They thought he was one of the best in the MEAC last year. And he's tough and mean and long-armed. And, I mean, heck, man, he looks like one of those kids that goes to Alabama or Georgia when you just look at him. I mean, what's the difference? Nothing. It's he's one to like. Defensively, Begnali Kamara, the kid from Pitt. Both kids from Pitt, I've really been excited about. They didn't have a good team last year. Didn't have a good defense. But Pat Narduzzi can coach and Pat Narduzzi can evaluate. And I think when you look at the recruiting rankings versus the number of NFL players that come out of that program, it's just like Michigan State when he was there. It's abnormal. And so I think Carolina got two absolute steals with those guys. Boy, Kamara can really read his keys and doesn't take a lot of false steps, and he's fast and solid. And then DeAndre Jules is a handful on the inside at 320 pounds. He's the kind of guy they don't have down there. So those two kids really stood out to me. And then Vakari Swain, who I think we talk about enough, I think Vakari had a really, really good spring game. Even without the interception, I thought he was flying around, looked comfortable, looked confident. There's a reason he was heavily recruited, and sometimes it just takes guys a year. And going into his second year, I think there's a lot to be positive about there too.
Preston and I talked about it. Yep, I think yesterday I labeled Vakari Swain Deion Sanders 2.0. Preston started saying that he was up there with Stephon Gilmore.
Well, I'm just saying, we've had guys around here that are taking snaps on offense. He's taking snaps on defense. He's playing corner. Hey, why not? That was yesterday.
Yeah. Yesterday we were just having a really good time. We were all Gamecock Larry yesterday. One thing that we did bring up, JC, yesterday is Torian Gray, because as you just mentioned with Vakari Swain, he's got some guys to work with. And I think this is a big offseason and a big season for Torian Gray to have a defensive backfield that is up there. When you look at O.D. Fortune, who I think probably projects to be drafted at some point in 7 rounds next year. Obviously, Nick Eamon-Warry in his third year, DQ Smith in his third year. Jalen Kilgore is back. You've got, obviously, Judge Collier is back for his second year. There is, and now you throw in Vakari Swain, Jalewis Solomon is coming in. There's some dudes to work with that defensive backfield should be very, very good, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that.
Oh yeah, I thought Nick had a good spring game too. He looked confident and dominant at times. I like the way he as a taller DB versus maybe some of the other taller DBs I've seen, like Jaron Kearse at Clemson or even Izzy McWamu. While McWamu was here, not in the NFL. So it's crazy how some of these guys end up playing much better in the NFL, right? Nick will stick his face in the sand and like it. He'll get in there and get physical and make tackles. And I think for a 6'4" kid like that, when you're tall and it's not always easy to get low and get that leverage, and he does it really well. DQ Smith had an excellent spring, won a bunch of awards. We know that Kilgore is potentially special. And then they got depth back there, too. Torian Gray's got about a 15 to 17-year track record of just reloading in the secondary every year. He's a great evaluator of talent and a great developer of talent. I've seen him develop guys that were 2-stars into NFL guys at Virginia Tech and Florida, and take guys that were 5-stars and make sure they get to the NFL so he can coach them all. And I think it is a big year for the secondary. It's I can't guarantee they won't give up some big plays because of the style of defense South Carolina runs. There are some gambles that they take. Clayton White likes to dial it up and gamble sometimes, and sometimes you're going to get beat on that. But I think all in all, from a personnel perspective, South Carolina should take a big step forward on the secondary, and I think if they just continue the momentum from the end of last year when they were pretty good, they'll have a special year.
803-404-6100. Speaking of Torian Gray coaching up some guys, we'll get into a little bit of recruiting. The Gamecocks landing a 4-star defensive back out of Virginia, 4-star defensive lineman, and we'll also talk about that defensive line, Dylan Stewart, or again a guy that how are you ready to label him?
Jadillon.
Jadillon, yes, the second coming. Second coming of Jadeveon Clown. Again, yes, JC, we were a tad over the top yesterday. We might go back down that path a tad. 803-404-6100. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. You know what? It's that time of year. You don't know exactly what to do. Saturday, it was like 92 degrees. Yesterday, it was in the 60s. You don't know whether you should have your heat on, your air conditioner on. But you know what? With AAA Heating and Air, you don't have to worry about either of them. You know that the heating and air unit that they put in is going to work perfectly. I used them about a year ago, had a brand new heating and air unit put into the Gunner household, and it has been fantastic. So contact AAA Heating and Air today to get a free estimate replacement. That's right, a free replacement estimate from AAA Heating and Air. If you're worried about costs, don't be. With AAA Heating and Air, right now you can get no interest, no payments through the end of 2024. Call AAA Heating and Air today, 803-677-1500. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Rolling along here on your Tuesday morning, Preston Thorne, 7:31, joined as we always are on Tuesday morning by J.C. Sherbert of thebigspur.com as we get you up and get you going. And talking a lot of spring game, obviously, in this situation. And one of those guys we'll start with was Dylan Stewart and his performance, J.C. And this is a guy that I've become hesitant. Preston, I don't know how you feel about recruiting rankings. You remember your recruiting days. But I'm always hesitant with the 5 stars to go, okay, he's the next big thing. That guy's going to come in and really do some damage. But J.C., Preston, I'll start with you. Dylan Stewart did look the part on Saturday night.
Yeah, and if you think about it, folks, I've heard reports from practices that he's been doing those same types of things in practice. Say he plays with an edge that you look for, and especially for a younger guy, has all the physical traits. We know that. And so when you see those traits translating early, I think you can say that it's going to be a success. Injuries notwithstanding.
JC, your thoughts on what you saw in the first live action, real action from Dylan Stewart?
Well, when I watched his film last year, the first thing that stands out is his high school team stood him up, moved him all over the place. He looks like one of those guys from Alabama or Georgia that in that scheme where they have the jack linebacker that's about a 245-pound monster that they just move all over the place and blitz him or whatever. So, I was like, well, the light came on. There's a reason Alabama and Georgia wanted him, and Ohio State and Miami and everybody else. And South Carolina got him. And I never understood why he wasn't a top 10 player in the country. To me, you're lower, and the excuse was he has a low ceiling. He's not, is he going to get any better? Well, the guys like that I tended to knock when I was doing rankings were guys like Byron Cowart, who I think still hanging around the NFL somewhere. But Byron was a 6'1" defensive end that was about 260, 270. So he's kind of a tweener. Same with a guy named Carl Fuller they both went to Auburn the same year. The 1 year Muschamp was there. They were top 5. But I was like, they're not going to get much better. Plus, they're like 6'1". Dylan Stewart, 6'4.5", 250 pounds. So he's still got growth. I mean, he can still get bigger. You're talking about a guy that's probably going to be about 265 when he tops out with that kind of athleticism and speed at the edge position. So I never understood why he was like 13th, 14th. I probably would have had him higher. And plus, at his school, Friendship Collegiate, I've tracked prospects from there before. They're not a school kind of like there's some high schools like out in Texas and stuff. You're going to get a ready-made product, but they don't have the resources to do that there. So on top of that, I thought it was just crazy that people were talking about how he didn't have any upside. So I'll say that. Was not surprised at the least of anything he did in the game or during practice. I think there's a reason that everybody in the country wants a lot of players. And I think I think he could have played last year at South Carolina. So I think there's a lot of reason to be excited about getting the dude in. Clowney comparisons. I mean, there's not but one Clowney in my opinion. He's very unique, but this guy can be, can he be what's his name? The kid Dallas Turner that's going to get drafted in the top 10. Yeah, he could be that kind of guy. For sure. So it's nice to see. And I thought the whole edge position has transformed. I mean, think about it last year, guys. You're dealing with Jordan Strawn, who I felt terrible for because Jordan was really coming on before he got hurt. Just wasn't the same. And then Tyreek Johnson or whoever else on the other side. I think that's why going to the 3-man front helped them because you could kind of stick Cocky Hemingway or Boogie Huntley out there and then play with linebackers. But I thought that I think this year it's a different story. Even Gilbert Edmond looked like he was a man on a mission on Saturday. So I think he wants his job back. So they've got depth there now. They've got talent there now. It should be a different situation as far as putting pressure on the passer from the edge spot this year.
Preston and I talked a little bit about it and kind of what you just said, and I think what I've seen you write on the Big Spur. Under Muschamp, it seemed like he wanted to go with more of the shorter, stockier defensive ends. I always think back to Aaron Sterling. I'm sure there was a couple of those more 6'1", 6'2". You looked out there on Saturday night. You just mentioned Dylan Stewart is in the 6'4", 6'5" range. Kyle Kennard is 6'4", 6'5". Desmond Yumi Zulu is up around that. that seems to be the direction you mentioned it, reshaping the defensive line. Preston, what was the edges? Y'all had Goss, you had Abraham there. I think Abraham didn't play with you though.
He was right before me. I mean, three similar dudes. So you had Abraham, Kalimba Edwards, George Goss. Three dudes who, if you were picking teams, you would say, "Yeah, I'll take him." Give me that guy. So yeah, some different coaches have different philosophies, but that dude can be in, as JC said, Alabama calls it the jack. You can call it whatever you want, but that guy that can maybe play out in space a little bit, but also walk down and put his hand in the dirt.
JC, your thoughts on the edge positions? Now, somewhere along the line, we went to edge. Yeah, no longer defensive end. They're all edges now.
I don't know why.
Yeah. The edge position now, which does seem to be completely reshaped.
Yeah, I mean, you rattled off. I thought Umi Azulu looked good. I thought Drew Tuazama had some nice moments. He's number 19. He kind of a guy that got in late. They thought they were going to move him inside. He looks like he's back outside now. And then Elijah Davis and Jatius Gear, I don't think even played. Maybe Gear did, and I didn't know.
No, he was in a boot. I saw Hale.
Yeah, those are two more guys. Yeah, so, and Gear was, he's 6'6", 262. I talked to a high school coach that got to observe practice, about 2 weeks ago, and he said the defensive ends all look like small forwards on basketball teams. Or power forwards, and I was like, wow, and I think that's when there's been. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say, I think that they probably with the players they have up front will kind of revert back to more 4-man this year than the 3-man. But I mean, you actually got the personnel to do both now, pretty good, because there are guys that are still those bigger guys that can play in on the roster. So I think it's night and day different as far as options. I think Sterling Lucas has done a really good job recruiting and getting guys better, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they perform in the fall. I think SEC defensive line depth and talent is back at South Carolina, so that's one of the most important spots on the field, and so it's good to see that they've revamped it in a way.
JC, you sound like you're getting on board. You sound like you're making a bold proclamation there.
I don't. Well, I mean, look. I think there's rightful concerns about the personnel they lost on offense, but and there's always going to be questions about the O-line. But you can win with defense, and if you look at the schedule, Kentucky's going to be Kentucky. They're just going to try to run it at you. So if you're good on defense and can stop the run, you can win up there. And then if you look at LSU and all the players they lost on their offense, and then on their defense, they're still searching for answers, especially at D-line and safety, which is really weird at LSU. And they have to come to Columbia for the first time in 17 years. So, if you're kind of looking to get off to a good start, your defense being good from the get-go would probably be very beneficial to that. So that's, personnel is important. Coaching's important. I think we overvalue coaching around here a little bit. The personnel reigns supreme, and they've got personnel this year. So I'm going to continue to say there's no excuse for this defense not to be better. And, at some point, if everybody stays healthy, there's probably no excuse for them not to be one of the better units that we've seen in South Carolina in a while.
The question for me will be the interior there. When you talk about Tonka Hemingway, when you talk about Boogie Huntley, you throw in some of the other guys, the transfers, DeAndre Jules, obviously, Monkel Goodwine. What was your thoughts? I know Shane Beamer talked a little bit about Goodwine and Jules on Saturday night. I really honestly did not pay as much attention. As Preston said, those defensive linemen could have had an awful scrimmage. To me, I'd have been like, oh, man, we're running the ball effectively. Doesn't matter. Would you say you could get reached 3 times?
Yeah, I mean, does anybody know if I got reached? Not really, especially when you see that the black team only had 1 rushing yard. You're like, oh, those guys played well.
Yeah.
I could have played terrible, but nobody knows, really, unless you're really locked in.
Did you lock in? Which, by the way, that might have to be something for the coming weeks when we move for the new term, lock in.
Overused phrase?
Yeah. I'm starting with AAU basketball. I'm starting to have some. All right, let's get away from locked in. But did you lock in, JC, on the interior defensive line and watch much of those guys?
Oh yeah, man, that's my favorite position on the field, D line. I mean, that's my. I played tight end, D end, so I love defensive line. And there's a lot more depth there, and that is very valuable because I do think South Carolina's defense at times last year got tired. Because you had a lot of guys playing a lot of snaps and not a lot of depth in a lot of spots. Well, the front 7 now, you've got depth. I mean, you're deep at linebacker. deep on the interior. Goodwine is a player. When I talked to folks at Alabama, he wasn't bad. He just had a lot of good guys in front of him. He's another one of those Maryland, D.C. area guys that is big and athletic. I mentioned DeAndre Jules, also a Maryland kid. And then, TJ and Tonka and Boogie are all back. You've got Jamal Weiss, who's kind of there. And then you got Nick Barrett, who's 330 pounds, who's had his moments, who was not healthy last season. And then you got the kid from JUCO coming in from Bamberg, who's like 6'6", 340, a big old kid. And you go from there. I mean, so I think that it's very valuable on the D-line, and Brad Lawing used to talk about this, rest in peace. He would steal snaps. He'd throw an Aldrich Fordham out there for Melvin Ingram for 4 or 5 snaps, or Byron Jerideau early in his career before he was a starter. And by the fourth quarter, because they don't sub on the O-line that much, the fourth quarter, the D-line was fresh, and that's very advantageous. If you remember some of those Clemson games, Carolina took over in the fourth quarter. Clemson's offensive line was done, and South Carolina would proceed to sack Taj Boyd almost every play. So that's kind of the idea, I think, when you're building depth inside. I think they do have quality depth for the first time in a while, and not just first and second team. I think they can go 5 or 6 deep during the course of the game.
Is it ever good? Like Jamal Weiss, as JC said, he's just kind of there. He's probably not. He's a big guy. We will continue on. Wrap it up here. Wrap up hour number 2 with JC Sherbert. I will get into a little bit of that recruiting. Gamecocks pick up 2 guys over the weekend, both out of Virginia, another state that South Carolina continues to kind of hammer, and we'll talk a little bit about that. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, JC Sherbert. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. Very nice out there today. Very pretty. It's going to be a great sunshine splash day. But you know what? This summer, we're going to have some of those summer thunderstorms that roll into town. They produce hail. They produce heavy rain. And the question is your roof ready to handle it? If not, it's time to call Mid-State Roofing today. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mid-State Roofing will have an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee ready to take your call. 803-356-1919. Whether you're here in Columbia, whether you're in Florence, whether you're in Myrtle Beach, wherever it is around this state that you might be, Mid-State Roofing is ready to help make sure your roof is ready to handle those summer thunderstorms. So if you've got a leak, call Mid-State Roofing today. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. There's a reason they say if you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. 7:49 as we wrap up hour number 2 here. J.C. Sherbert joining us this morning, as he always does, to talk a little bit about what's going on with South Carolina football. Obviously, a lot of spring game talk. We'll move past that. More baseball and recruiting next week. And speaking of recruiting, J.C., all right, things now, it seems slow at first, but I think with both of us, you know just as well as I do, you start to sense a pattern as coaches get years under their belt. South Carolina last year probably was a little bit hotter in the months of February and March with recruiting, but typically for Shane Beamer, it's been about the spring game through about the end of July when things really accelerate for them, the way they recruit, the way they bring guys in, the way they look at camps. And now, especially with official visits being in June, and it looked like this weekend, again, a lot of steps taken to start to really build this class.
Absolutely. Yeah, last year was sort of an outlier. I think, people always, during the course of an actual football season, get concerned about losing recruits, and it does happen with that current class if things start to go south or there's some controversy or a bunch of people leave. But the Gamecocks held on to everybody, and most of the time you do these days because guys just decide so early they're already locked in. Where the season impacts is the next class. And last year, South Carolina's finished beating Tennessee and Clemson, and then, that Notre Dame game from a recruiting standpoint was actually a positive because, kids turn on the TV. It was watched all over the country. There's 70,000 or 60,000 plus in the stadium, 40,000 Gamecock fans there. It's one of the most exciting games of the bowl season, even though they lost. So they had a lot of momentum to where a Wendell Gregory, a Michael Smith, a Cam Pringle, a Josiah Thompson, those guys are ready to jump in early. That just wasn't the case this year. I'm not saying kids are taking a wait-and-see approach, but, you went 5-7. You had some coaching changes and things like that. The portal was obviously important this year with 20 new guys coming in, so that's kind of a focus. People don't think about that. There's only so many hours in a day. And I'm not saying they weren't recruiting juniors. I'm just saying that there's only so many hours in a day, and you didn't have that momentum. But certainly the last couple of weeks with the in-state guys, they've gotten to go ahead and shut it down. And then this state of Virginia thing, I mean, you guys know I love recruiting territories and maps. And anything north of North Carolina or west of Georgia that South Carolina can get in on, I'm always intrigued. And two, from the state of Virginia, there's a bunch of students that are from Virginia that go to South Carolina. The Gamecocks are already very popular in the D.C., Maryland area. Shane Beamer, obviously, his name means a lot in that state. Torian Gray's got some connections up there. So to get two guys like Shamari Earls and Caleb Williams, both four-star type guys, a D-line and a cornerback out of that state right now, I think, number one, it's bad for the Hokies. Number two, it's good for the Gamecocks because right now North Carolina is still hard to figure out for a lot of schools. I talked to somebody the other day. They said most kids in that state, if they're not staying home and going to state or North Carolina, they want like Alabama, Ohio State, or they don't want to talk to you. It's just kind of a weird dynamic. So you just skip over it, and you go to Virginia, you go to Maryland, you go to D.C. There's more good players there than there are in North Carolina. Keep recruiting Georgia, Carolina, and South Carolina, and Florida, and then this kid Jared Smith from Alabaster, Alabama, had a really good visit too. Some people think South Carolina's got the inside track on him. He's another 6'6" defensive end. So, it was a very successful recruiting weekend. Gamecock fans showed up for the game. It was a good atmosphere, well-played game, just kind of relaxing. Not a lot of angst and consternation with the fan base in the stands for that one. I can tell you that right now. So it was a very successful weekend. I think Carolina's momentum will continue. And you're right. You look at all the blue-chip guys that are visiting in July. It's going to be a big, big time for South Carolina's recruiting here in about 60 days.
Before we let you out of here quickly, I know on thebigspur.com there is a Garnet Trust Hoops match that is going on for NIL. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah. I just heard the commercial that Chris cut here. Garnet Trust right now, a friend of the basketball programs has offered to match $250,000 each for men's and women's for NIL. This is huge for our men's basketball initiative because trying to they're working in the portal, trying to double that budget this year. This would get us close to the finish line. So in other words, you give $20, that's really $40. You give $100, it's really $200. You give $500, that's $1,000. So you double your money right now between now and May 1st. Just go to garnettrust.com. Go to @TheGarnetTrust on Twitter, and the links are right there. Or get on thebigspur.com. We have them posted there as well, and it'll point you in the right direction. We certainly appreciate it. We're off to a hot start. We just got to continue it. If you want to keep going to NCAA tournaments and winning championships, as the Mandalorian said, this is the way. So really appreciate everybody who's jumped in so far, and hope other people can find it in them to give what they can, and you get to double your money.
Buddy, we appreciate it. We look forward to catching safe travels today. We look forward to catching up with you next week.
Hey, thanks, y'all.
Appreciate
y'all be
it, Jesse.
good.
Take care. Hour 3 on the way.
And looking at the traffic out there this morning, we have a few that I need to let you know about, and that includes 277 southbound right there at Sunset Drive. Also, Jameel Road at Piney Grove Road. I-26 eastbound at Harbison, an accident there. Also, I-20 eastbound at Broad River Road. 2 left lanes are currently blocked. So you're going to need to get right at I-20 eastbound at Broad River Road. And then I-20 westbound before Alpine Road, you'll want to get left. As far as forecast goes, pretty nice for the next several days. 75 for the high today. Right now, it's 44.
$8 a.m. Hour number 3. Big thank you to J.C. Sherbert for joining us there in the previous hour, as always. And that kind of will put a bow, so to speak, on the spring. That was more intellectual, thought-out takes.
Yeah. It wasn't as fun as Jadillon, though.
Oh, I mean, the question is, how do we split the Heisman in 2? Give half to Lenora Sellers and give half to Dylan Stewart?
Mm-hmm.
Where do we have the parade for the dual Heisman winners? That offensive line is just going to maul people. I can just tell.
Sounds good to me.
That defensive line is going to maul people.
Sounds good to me.
Vakari Swain, I mean, potentially the best cornerback to ever come through the University of South Carolina.
Put him in number 5 now.
5.
Let's let him wear number
fair.
5.
Yeah, I can see that. Jawan Howell, what's the record? What's Adrian Peterson's record? 2,000 yards? Dow Loggins is a genius.
Let's go. Why not? Put a bow on
there.
it.
Yeah.
You got nothing but this to live on. Because, by the way, it's 30 days until 100 days till ODU.
It's a ways away. It's a couple days away. 30 days until we can start the official countdown. It will be a little sad to not hear Tommy's 100-day jersey countdown.
One of my favorites.
Did you make sure you tuned in?
I always would miss it. I would always say at the beginning, all right, it's starting 100. I want to make sure 94 is here. And somehow or another, I would even be listening. I was like, today's 94. And then I would have to do something, and then I would miss it. Yeah, man. I would always miss it. But shout out.
So roughly then 36 days until we honor you on a day. What is that? Today's the 23rd, so that's going to be about the end of May. Right around Memorial Day, I believe. A little after Memorial Day, if I'm doing the numbers correctly on that. Does that
May 29th.
Right? May 29th.
Big day. Big day around
Big day. All right. 803-404-6100. Again, thank you to Jonathan Austin, Beyond Now Foundation, for having us out yesterday to hang out at Woodlands Country Club and be a part of the Beyond Now golf tournament. There's a lot of great people. You mentioned, I did not see Dave Roberts, but there was so many former players, so many former teammates of yours. I can't list them all, but they came out to support.
There were a lot of guys out there. Ryan Brewer, Adam Holmes, John Strickland, Courtney Levitt was out there. Got a chance to talk with Courtney for a good while. Then not my teammates, but my brothers in Gamecocks. Harold Green, which I always love seeing Harold. Sterling's like a Yeti. You see him, then you don't. I think he drops a mist, and then he disappears into thin air. So Sterling was out there yesterday. Big George made an appearance. My number one thing every time I see George Rogers is, how did anybody tackle that dude? It's impossible to tackle. There's no way that guy was that big, running that fast, that long ago. That was a glitch in the Matrix at that moment. It's probably a reason why he won the Heisman, I would assume. So every time I see him, that's my number one thought. But a lot of guys were out there. It was an awesome event. It was
incredible. Courtney does wait, and he says, and he's just missed it. Maybe he said, "Can we get to a more important topic? How about yesterday?" Well, we've covered it a little bit, and then he says, "I have not heard Bill bragging about winning the third flight." Well, I did, but then Jonathan brought me back to earth with like soaps and smell good material and candles and I think they're actually supposed to bring that in here in just a little while at about 8:30. Bring me my winnings, and then Courtney says, nor have I heard about Preston's impact putting skills.
Yeah, see, they had me going ambidextrous yesterday. So like I said, I putted with those fellas yesterday. My normal excuse of, oh, man, we don't have any left-handed clubs, it worked, but Ryan Brewer being the beast that he's like, well, just turn around. I was like, all right, I'll try. So it didn't work out well for me.
I don't know this to be fact. I'm only going off of what I saw and was told at the end of the round. And if so, this speaks to the level of athleticism that Jonathan Austin has. Okay. And John's a big boy. Like, he looks like at 40, he could line up right now and play a little left tackle. It's my understanding he's left-handed.
Yes.
When I ran into him in Langston, and I think it was Henry Taylor, maybe. I think it was Henry Taylor.
Henry Taylor was out there yesterday for sure.
Jonathan was hitting golf balls right-handed.
Okay.
And I wouldn't like deem them to be great golf shots, but to do it opposite-handed, they were wildly impressive. It wasn't like worm burners or top shots off. Like, it was sprayed a little right, might have been a little left, but they were better than some of the shots that got hit by our group. I just say that. Like, I was actually wildly impressed by the athleticism, the hand-eye coordination of a guy that size. He was doing it also with a cigar around him, which terrifies me when people have a cigar in their mouth, and even if they're just trying to putt or something of that nature, I'm horrified that they're going to, like, burn themselves. But it was a great event. Thank you to Jonathan Austin for the Beyond Now for having us out there at Woodlands Country Club. A lot of fun yesterday. 803-404-6100. We had a lot of fun yesterday. Aaron Boone, on the other hand, don't know if you can say the same for Aaron Boone. Preston is building a hot take. Yesterday, Aaron Boone got ejected. Let's let Aaron Boone explain his ejection first, and then we will try to explain what we saw. This was the Yankees and A's. A's are not very good at baseball. They hit a 2-run homer in the ninth. They ended up winning 2-0. Part of it was because Aaron Boone wasn't around to manage his team. I don't know how important a manager is, but here's Aaron Boone yesterday referencing his ejection.
Hard to. Hard to. I really didn't even go after Hunter. I was more upset that, on the appeal, and I said, Hunter, you can call it too, and he came back at me pretty hard, to which I didn't respond. I just said, okay, went down, and it's embarrassing. It really is it's embarrassing.
So here's what happened. Let me explain it, then I'll let Preston go. Here's what happened. Aaron Boone is in the dugout, kind of in the bottom of the dugout. He's not even standing on the top step yelling or anything. He's kind of in the bottom of the dugout. And video clearly shows a fan sitting either 1 or 2 rows above the dugout, kind of above Aaron Boone.
But pretty much directly behind him.
Yes, I was going to say, like, it in line with him. In line with him. It's on the right side of the dugout. It's on the right side. And the fan is yelling at the umpire. The umpire
has already told Aaron that's enough.
Right.
He's already told Aaron, I don't want to hear anything from you.
Right.
Because there was a questionable call to begin with previously.
As a matter of fact, if I saw the video correctly, it looks like Aaron Boone, at the moment of the ejection, has his back turned to the field. It looks like he is actually talking.
No, he was looking, because you saw him chewing his gum.
Okay.
And then you see him explode like, what?
Well, the fan is yelling at the umpire. The umpire decides he's had enough and ejects Aaron Boone for chewing gum, essentially doing nothing. Now you have a hot take on that.
I've done this at least 20 times in my classroom. There's a clown in the classroom who's been talking the whole period, Bill. You've been talking. I told you that was enough, Bill. Enough. And then your little friend over there, Austin, says something. And I said, Bill, get out. And Bill's like, oh, I didn't do anything. Yeah, you didn't do anything this time, but you've been doing stuff the whole period. And that's it. You just got to go. Aaron Boone, for him to sit there and be like, oh, I can't believe he would do that to me. Aaron, we know you. We know who you are. You get under umpire's skin.
Yep.
And he just had, get out. I've done it at least 10 times in my classroom. And the umpire was wrong. What am I going to say? Oh, I'm sorry, I got that wrong? No, get out. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah, no, he really doubled down in post-inverse. He said, I don't really care who said it. He needed to go. I was like, oh, okay. But it is pretty funny that when you look at the zoomed in, you see the guy who was behind. He was in a blue shirt, and you see him blah, 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 while Boone is just chewing gum. But then you see the frozen frame of the guy behind the heckler or the guy in the blue pointing. It's like, oh, man, there's the snitch right there. He's like, no, he said it. So that was pretty comedic, too.
And it doesn't happen. You just throw him out, and you know what? You feel a lot better about yourself. Bill's out in the hallway. The class can continue. Because now what he's done, he's scared everybody else. You, too, can get thrown out of this classroom.
Do you two realize you say it had been going on all period and you ejected the friend? Do you guys know how many pitches had been thrown in this game?
It was 5 pitches.
It was the
Yeah, that's why I don't agree with him throwing him out in this case. If it was the 9th inning and it had been like a frustrating game, that's the only difference I have.
But listen, this is not, you think was this the opening game of the series? Because stuff could have happened yesterday. I'm tired of you, Bill. It is only first period, but you got on my nerves yesterday. And so today, I'm going to exact revenge on you.
Hunter Wendelstedt is the official.
My guy.
And to go back, what was said is what had happened. The previous batter for the A's had been hit on an 0-2 count on the foot by a pitch and was awarded first base, to which the Yankees thought that the A's batter had swung at the pitch and it should have been a strike. Should have been strike 3. Instead, Hunter Wendelstedt turned and looked at Aaron Boone and said, "You're not yelling at me. I did what I was supposed to do and checked. I'm looking for him to get hit by a pitch. You got anything else to say, you're gone." To which the fan didn't take those words to mean the same thing and kept yelling at Hunter Wendelstedt, who Hunter Wendelstedt decided.
He was on high alert, man. He just heard something from that area. It's like, I'm at the backboard, and I heard something from the left-hand corner. Bill, that's enough. Get out. And everybody in the class was looking around like, it wasn't Bill. I don't care.
Texter weighs in. Teacher here. Preston, amen. Sometimes little Timmy's got to go.
Gotta go. He gotta go. Little Timmy's out of here, man. We'll fix it tomorrow. But for today, get out of here.
Richard weighs in. Amazing clarification from Preston. Never would have thought of it like that.
That's all I'm saying.
This also does bring up the question, Friday night in the Arkansas-South Carolina game, did Mark Kingston ask to be ejected? Because if you watch that sequence of events, it felt like Kingston said, "Eject me," and the umpire went, "All right, you're out of here."
Oh, I'd love to go back and look at that.
It looks there is some wording because it was quick, like it was argument, and you could tell what Kingston was trying to do. It was the 8th inning. Kingston,
so he's trying to get his guys rallied.
Kingston, I think, realized I've coached all I can coach. There's not another move I can call that Monty Lee can't call. We're down. We need something that fires us up.
Okay.
And Kingston clearly was going for the ejection, and it felt like he wasn't getting it because it was a 2-1 game, and the umpire was giving him leeway because it was a close call on the hit by pitch. And it looked like Kingston finally had to be like, "Hey, man, I'm here for a purpose, and it's to fire up the team. I'm going to need you to eject me."
Your mama's ugly. Will that do it?
What do I need to say here?
I think, what is it? Has anybody ever told you look like in that hat? Yeah, well.
So that's the situation. The umpires know he is not right in this situation. But I understand where his frustration was coming from. Because Aaron Boone, I have the numbers to back it up. I have the numbers.
He's mouthy.
We'll get to that. Oh, we'll get to
numbers.
We got some numbers.
I got numbers.
We got some numbers. We'll get to that. We'll get to that next. I think a little message board mayhem as well. You're listening to the early game. You do not want to miss this. Trust me when I tell you. Zero Res right now has one of the best deals they've had in a long time going on, and you need to take advantage right now. This week only, you can get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned plus a free hallway from the cleaning pros at Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning, and it's only going to cost $109. Let me repeat that again. Right now, this week only, you can get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned plus a free hallway for only $109. The offer is only available this week, so schedule your appointment now before it's too late. ZeroResColumbia.com is where you can go. Use the promo code SALE, SALE 109. Again, that's SALE 109. This week only. You don't want to miss out. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean plus a free hallway for just $109. You can also give them a phone call, 803-262-4020. Zero Res, spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Clemson Road near Hardscrabble Road, a report of an accident there. Also, I-20 eastbound at Broad River Road. The 2 left lanes are blocked, so get right at I-20 eastbound at Broad River Road. I-20 westbound before Alpine Road, an accident there. I-26 eastbound at Harbison Boulevard, still working to get that earlier tie-up cleared. Jameel Road at Piney Grove and Polo at Two Notch, an accident as well. Oh, we do have one more, 277 southbound at Sunset Drive. 75 under sunny skies today, looking for a high of 80 tomorrow. Get about 79 for Thursday and Friday, and into the weekend, we're in the low 80s. No rain in the forecast. It's a little cool right now, 44 on the early game.
803-404-6100. Spring games pretty much wrapping up now, and that means a little message board mayhem because people have seen certain things, Preston Thorne, certain things that they were ready to overreact about, such as on TexasAgs.com. It wasn't the game that bothered people. It was the subpar concessions. One Aggie posted, I realize it's a spring game. However, having Diet Pepsi as your only option is an epic fail. Even at the concession stand, one of the workers said, everyone keeps asking for Diet Dr. Pepper. Fire the concession czar.
Yeah, I feel like maybe spring game should be like, man, do your own thing. I don't know if we should be responsible for this.
Oh, you think it should be like a BYOB, bring your pack of lunch?
Maybe. We're going to hire people, run a cassette. I don't know if we need to do everything.
Well, can they look at it? I mean, could it be a fundraising? I don't want to say fundraising, but could it be a money-making event?
Possibly.
You know.
There's something
or,
there.
$5 to get in.
Or go back to it. Like what I love at the Indy 500, there's a whole bunch of different concession areas throughout, the track, and each little blocked in kitchen or whatever, it's a different team or a different band that is working that, and they get a percentage of what they bring in. So it works out really well.
I got you.
Yeah, so it's fundraising. So
something along those lines.
Maybe the Jayettes, have this booth, and maybe Jonathan's charity has another one, and so they're actually making money by selling concessions. I think it's kind of a cool idea.
That's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think, I don't know how to do it with the school. I don't know if the school can actually do it, but if like Garnet Trust had set up outside and just like, hey, $5 for Garnet Trust if you get 20,000 fans.
Mm-hmm.
That still might not solve this particular man's problem because
doesn't fix the lack of that. No, and there were other people that agreed with him that do not like Pepsi and used words we are not allowed to use on the radio to describe their feelings for Pepsi.
Pepsi stinks.
Whole other thing. So that was at Texas A&M. At Texas, totally different. They were concerned. They were. I don't know if concerned is not the right word, but the message board mayhem. Remember, Quinn Ewers was pretty good last year.
I've told you. I have a feeling where this is going.
Quinn Ewers last year did get Texas to a college football playoff. Arch Manning, though, threw for
55 yards.
55 yards. Arch Manning was apparently fantastic in the spring game, and now Texas fans are convinced they have a quarterback controversy.
Told you.
One guy weighs in. He says, "Skull, brother." That's the guy. He says, "Arch is going to be so much better than Quinn." LT Texas fan says, "Arch should start," and gives the horns up. And more weighed in with him that Arch should now be the starter.
Quinn, I'll just tell you this. You better come out balling.
Yeah.
You better come out balling.
They play Michigan.
You better ball
early on.
Because it's going to be a rough road.
Michigan fans are already a little concerned about the post-Jim Harbaugh era, which we need to get to Jim Harbaugh coming up. Is it too early to be concerned, one Michigan fan writes, that the Sharon era will be a bust in similar fashion to Juwan? Based on the lack of recruiting to this point, I'm just worried that after this year, it could be bad. It could be a bad few years. I really want him to work out because he seems like a good guy, but the answer to every problem can't be NIL. It's getting old.
This is something I think is worth keeping an eye on. It's worth keeping an eye on because go back to expectations. I think Jim Harbaugh is an excellent coach, bar none. And so to ask somebody to fill those types of shoes the year after, where I think Jim might have over-exceeded the talent and because of how good he is. And so anybody else stepping into that might be setting themselves up for a tough road.
This one not really having anything to do with the spring game, but one Georgia fan, well, he's convinced Dabo Swinney promotes what to wear to church. This is a Georgia fan on Dog Vent. Hacksaw Dog says, Clemson attire at church. Maybe it's just my church, but Clemson folks will wear their orange and purple Clemson stuff to church. This isn't the case for anyone else from any other school, but the Rock Petters come to church dressed for game day for some strange reason. Anyone else experience this odd phenomenon? Seems like something Dabo would promote.
There's a lot in there. I don't think that's something that they would promote, but I mean, I don't know. That's odd. That's a lot.
And we'll wrap up Message Board Mayhem with
You're
Southern.
just sitting in church and you're just trying to do your thing. You got your moment and you see somebody walking with orange and it just takes you out of everything that you were trying to accomplish while you was in church. You're like, ugh.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's why you're there.
Yeah.
Now you're trying to settle back down.
Please work on my spirit, please. You're sending the devil at me. You're sending him.
We'll wrap up Message Board Mayhem with this one. Southern Cal. This is the epitome of spring football right here. The floor is 10 wins. Unlike most on this board, I don't give blind trust to the coaches, but now that I have watched the spring game, I am even more bullish on this season. Our offense will put up 50 points on LSU and Michigan. The defense is worlds better. I don't know what people were looking at. The D-line and linebackers playing better, even at half speed. In a real game, they'll be very disruptive. We could use some size on the interior, but I don't see it as a make or break. Big Ten teams that try to grind on the ground will quickly be down by 4 touchdowns. Our secondary is already elite. We will have 2 1,000-yard rushers. Get ready to play Ohio State in the Big Ten championship.
Okay.
And
all right. The only thing I would just say is your defense could be worlds better and still be bad because that's how bad their defense was.
It's very true.
They could make a market improvement and still be very below the middle of the pack.
Texter weighs in on Firehouse Subs as to the Clemson church attire. Says, those are the only nice clothes they have. 803-404-6100. That's Message Board Mayhem. You got numbers on Aaron Boone?
All I'm saying is this. Baseball's gotten soft.
Oh.
There was a time, Bill, we all came up to us, and we might could save this for our Chop Block segment on Thursday. But our king, Bobby Cox, leads and will continue forever to lead Major League Baseball in ejections. 162 ejections.
Yeah, he didn't like baseball very much. He liked to go.
He liked to get thrown out of games very, very frequently.
So Bobby Cox is the leader at this point.
Yes.
And it's unassailable. It will never be touched again. And I read an article as to why. Because people used to argue, safe and out calls. Well, guess what? We have computers to do that now. It's hard to argue with the computers. People used to argue balls and strikes. We got the strike zone deal now, so you can't argue that as much. So ejections have dropped dramatically.
Can you imagine him coaching now? Like if all that had been implemented in the middle of his coaching career, that would have made him crazy.
Oh, for sure. Because then who am I going to yell at? I just got to yell at the computer. Who I got to yell at? So they've dropped dramatically, but here's the thing. While Bobby Cox is known for getting ejected a lot, when you get really nerdy and you break the percentages down, which I've done the numbers, I've done the deep dive on this, Bill. You know who has the highest percentage of games that they get kicked out?
Orioles coach. There's an Orioles coach.
Earl Weaver? You think
Earl Weaver.
It's not.
Oh.
Guess.
Is it Aaron Boone?
Aaron Boone. 35 ejections in 893 games for 0.39 percentage, 0.04% over Bobby Cox. So Aaron Boone gets ejected a lot. So don't you try and act like you're all innocent, Aaron. You like to get ejected.
It just turned against you this time, but for the most part, it would have been you.
So Aaron Boone, in terms of percentage of ejections,
more than Bobby Cox
is currently the leader.
Now he'll never get that high because he probably won't coach that many games.
Do you know how many games, Bobby? Do you have that in front of you?
I have it in front of me. How many games he coached?
Yeah.
4,508.
Yeah.
A lot of games. I don't think guys are coaching. They don't make them like they used to.
No.
They don't make them like they used to. Yeah, but see, the thing was, it was nothing to see Bobby Cox get ejected.
No, yeah.
I wouldn't have made sports. I mean, and then Aaron Boone.
Hot take. Bobby Cox didn't like watching baseball.
I mean, 4,000 games. I mean, you got things to do. It's a Tuesday in August.
Yeah, July 2nd. I don't want to be here.
I got a coupon to Outdoor World, man. I got to go shop.
Yeah. I'm not in the mood to watch this again.
And plus, I mean, Greg Maddux is on the mound. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't need me. 803-404-60.
Leo Mazzoni's going to be my pitching coach. It's no problem. Leo, handle this.
Yeah. I'd like to see the numbers on how early those ejections were, too. Break that one down.
Go deeper dive.
He's Preston Thorne. I'm Bill Gunner. She's Jen Jensen. It's the early game.
And it's definitely gotten a little bit busy out there on the highways this morning, but a few accidents are clearing now. Still lingering Clemson Road near Hardscrabble. Also I-26 eastbound at Harbison Boulevard. I-20 eastbound at Broad River Road. And Polo Road at Two Notch. Also, you'll find an accident. 75 under sunny skies today. 80 tomorrow. And then we drop down about 79 for Thursday and Friday before getting into the low 80s for the weekend. Pretty nice out there. Starting out a little cooler, but it's starting to warm up. It is 45 on the early game.
.36 here on a Tuesday morning back in the studio where we will be today and tomorrow. Then I'll be out at Fort Jackson on Thursday, the Chamber of Commerce Golf Tournament, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. be broadcasting out there. Preston will be here in studio, and then he'll be heading out a little early on Thursday. We will hook it up. We'll get together, and you can come hang around on Thursday if you want to out at Fort Jackson. I say that like it's an easy place. There's an easier place where you can go and meet some of us. Gamecock Central Takeover at Firehouse Subs. That's a lot easier to go and visit Wes and Chris and Tyler this afternoon. Firehouse Subs out at Killian Crossing. The Gamecock Central Takeover, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Trust me, trying to get into Firehouse Subs, trying to get on Fort Jackson, two entirely different things. So go visit them. May not be able to visit me, but you can go visit them and hang out. 803-404-6100. All right now let's give away two pairs of baseball tickets. This is for Friday night against Kentucky. First pitch, 7 o'clock, 2 pairs. We'll give it to callers 4 and 5. Callers 4 and 5, 803-404-6100. If you want to win yourself a pair of tickets to Friday night's baseball game against Kentucky over at Founders Park. No midweek games because of exams, so the Gamecocks will be back in action Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Right now, we'll give away tickets to South Carolina and Kentucky Friday night. Callers 4 and 5, win yourself a pair of tickets. 803-404-6100, how you can win those. Want to get to Jim Harbaugh. Speaking of kooky people here, Michael just weighs in and says, I know a couple that had a Clemson-themed wedding. The bride wore an orange and white dress. The groom wore a purple tuxedo with an orange tie that has Clemson paws on it. The cake was Clemson-themed. I agree. No one but Clemson fans would do this.
Hey, listen, if you and your mate want to do that in your personal life, cool. Just don't bring that into the house of the Lord. You're cool. Do that wherever you want to. That's all y'all. Hey. Takes all kinds to make up the world. Don't bring that over here.
You do it at the reception, or you do it at the Friday night party, or whatever.
Yeah.
The last wedding I was at in Greenville back in August of last year, they did have cocky there.
That's cool.
On Friday night.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
Took pictures
at the
danced
reception.
Around. Would you want Jim Harbaugh at your wedding?
Well, here's the deal. What's going to happen with Jim Harbaugh is, if you're at his table and you happen to get cornered by Jim Harbaugh, buckle up for a wild ride. There's going to be people who's going to be like, man, you sat me at this table with this dude, and he started talking about chickens, and he started talking about all types of things. I think Jim Harbaugh will probably give you a good gift at the wedding, and he'd probably be a solid guest. It's just whoever was sitting next to him.
I mean, he's going to be drinking milk. Maybe eating the steak.
Yeah, it's gonna be it'll be an interesting ride for sure.
What did Jim Harbaugh do now?
Got a tattoo. There's video of him getting a tattoo. He didn't just get a tattoo. He got a tattoo to commemorate the undefeated season that Michigan had. I believe he set a a deal with his team that if they went undefeated or won the national championship, he would get a tattoo. And he got a tattoo. The only issue is Jim is just a weird dude. We know that. So there's the video of him getting the tattoo, and he's just making these faces, and he's just strange. But he got a very small tattoo. And I don't know, like, you can not get a tattoo first and foremost. That's fine. But if you're going to do it, I feel like you need to get a statement piece.
I'm with you on this.
This is not a statement piece. This looked like somebody who's kids. One day at a time. There used to be a time where you could not get tattoos in South Carolina. Jim Harbaugh looks like he ran to Savannah. He's 17 years old. He got sneaky at a tattoo party and did some weird thing on his arm with a pin. Whoever did that tattoo should not take pride in whatever it is. Do you see it?
Yeah, I've seen it. Preston's right. If you haven't seen it, you can just you can Google Jim Harbaugh. It is just the block M. It's on his right shoulder, kind of up above the bicep. Not even on the bicep. It's kind of almost up on the top of the shoulder there. It's just a block M, and underneath it just says 15-0. Like if he's swimming, you're just like, is that a what does that stand for?
Guess I'll know your shoulder.
Is that commemorate? What are you commemorating?
I can't remember. Does it? Yeah, it looks like prison ink. There's no color. It's just blue. And he's so proud.
Do you know how old Jim Harbaugh is?
He's older than I think he is. Is he 60?
60.
Okay.
Exactly,
right.
60.
That's fine.
He's 60. Yeah, if you got to go look at it. Yeah, because I'm with you. Like, if you promise, number one, don't ever make that promise.
No, don't.
Like, at some point, realize that's not the promise you make, okay?
Especially if you've survived to this point with no tattoos.
Right. Don't go around making these promises. You just kind of let that one go. If you want to shave your head where it grows, where hair grows back.
Which is a dangerous game at 60.
True. Also true.
Dangerous game.
But Harbaugh's got this awkward tattoo. Like, you're right. There's no real flair to it. It doesn't really explain what happened. Like, if you're going to do it, get the national championship trophy. Now, I also wonder the pain tolerance here.
Well, the thing is, once you start, I mean, you felt the pain. I mean, you can feel it for a little bit longer or whatever the case is, but that...
I'll be honest. This is coming from a person who has 0 tattoos.
Well, I have several. I have a lot of tattoos. And I will say this. Your first tattoo is not your best. It will never be because you probably got it when you were young. You thought something was cool. It's not cool anymore. The benefit of being older is that you know what you want. You have plenty of money. That's the other thing. When I got my first tattoo, I was broke. Couldn't afford any good work. Jim, you have plenty of money. Go get a nice tattoo. Get something that really shows the pride that you have in winning this.
Yeah, but I feel like he was like, man, like, there's that thing where you have to figure out, it's kind of like the egg salad a couple weeks ago, where I knew it was going to be poor, and I very easily could have just been like, no, I'll take the ridicule. Y'all can say what you want about me. You can call me all the names you want in the book. I'm not doing the egg salad. And I was like, I have to do this. I have to. This is a tattoo.
But he's done it. And he just did it poorly.
That's what I'm saying. But that's exactly what it is.
He did the minimum basic requirement.
It was like he looked, he went in, don't have a book normally or something. It was like, how big's that block M? 15-0? What do we got there? What are we talking here? We talking 20 minutes? 20? Is this going to take 20 minutes?
Listen, if you're at the stage in this life when you're getting a tattoo out of a book, reevaluate.
I also think he's doing it.
It should be something that's meaningful, or a picture that somebody did for you, or something like that.
Custom design. You can get people to. I had experiences where they draw the work on you freehand and they do it. Jim picked Times New Roman font, bold, italicized it, and just put some numbers underneath it.
I mean, I guess he couldn't technically do the copyright and all that. Like, we kind of.
No, he can go for it. Nobody's checking.
He won him a championship. He also got him on 3 years probation and some stuff. But no,
and he really didn't even go all in with like the ink color. Like, he could have gone with the logo color even, just to splash it up.
I'm also it's high up on the shoulder. I've seen tattoos. This seems excessively high. Like, Like, aren't tattoos more closer to the bicep area as opposed to the?
You can do them anywhere.
Anywhere,
You know,
yeah.
you can.
Oh, I know you can do them anywhere. I'm aware of that.
You can do them anywhere. It just looks oddly placed. It doesn't have. It doesn't.
That's what I'm saying. It looks.
This is kind of right.
It looks high up.
It's not
like,
on the shoulder, but it's not on the bicep either.
He definitely does not want it to be seen when he's wearing short sleeves.
That might
He's
be it.
planned that.
yeah, but he goes shirtless at practice a lot. 803-404-6100. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for the Ecton Law Firm. Our tax troubles weighing you down. Tax season is kind of moving on into the past, and now you've got to think about maybe receiving one of these levies or liens that the IRS is planning to send out here in 2024. And if it's putting you in a tax situation, if you're in a little bit of a bind, it's time to get a free consultation with John Ecton and his team at the Ecton Law Firm. Whether you're in Columbia, whether you're in Myrtle Beach, or whether you're right here, or whether you're in Florence, John Ecton and his team are ready to help you. Call them today. Get that free consultation and relieve the stress in your life that tax issues can cause. 803-771-9800. Again, that's 803-771-9800. They have a local team dedicated to resolving your income or business tax issues for good. So you need to contact John Ecton and his team. Find out today how they can help you. 803-771-9800. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Wrapping it up here, 8:50 on your Tuesday morning. Again, reminder following us, Gamecock Central Takeover at Firehouse Subs at Killian Crossing. You can go hang out with Wes, Chris, and Tyler Head as they will be out there from 9 to 12 today. Grab yourself a sandwich and hang out and enjoy what should be a nice afternoon. Yesterday was beautiful as well. We appreciate the folks at Woodland Country Club and Beyond Now for having us out. It's a beautiful day today. That might not be the case always as we go into the summer. You know, you get those summer thunderstorms, and that's where Mid-State Roofing comes in. For nearly 30 years, Larry Leitner, Mid-State Roofing, the entire Leitner family, well, they've been the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. It's their proven history that is your assurance that they're professionals will provide proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility in a manner both safe and pleasing to your operation. And with these thunderstorms that come up during the summer, you might get a little hail. Well, guess what? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Mid-State Roofing is ready to take your phone call and help with any issues that a summer thunderstorm may provide. So give them a phone call and get a maintenance contract today, 803-356-1919. Again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mid-State Roofing is there to help you. Again, that's 803-356-1919. If you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a pick. 803-404-6100. How you can weigh in here this morning. Buddy says, seems to me you guys are very jealous because you'll never win a football championship. No. No. If I wanted a tattoo, I'd get a tattoo, buddy. I'd get a tattoo. I didn't want a tattoo. Looked painful.
Yeah, it's not. Don't let anybody. Oh yeah, it doesn't hurt. No, it's not. It's not a great feeling. It's not even an addictive feeling. You know, oh, you got addicted. No, you just understand the pain and you want the work done, but. Don't fall into that trap.
Yeah, I never grasped the people that are like, oh, I'm stressed out. I need ink therapy. I got to go get a tattoo. I'm like, what is, no.
That's not for me.
Another texter weighs in and says, if Carolina ever goes 15-0, I'll let y'all choose the tattoo and where it goes.
I would do you right, and I'll send you to the right person. And I might even commemorate it myself. That being said.
Careful.
I think I'm safe.
Also, true. Well, I mean, it just says if Carolina ever goes 15-0, number one, that opens the door to which Carolina, if you want to go down that route, if
Very
we wanted
true.
to play it. And it also, he doesn't say win a championship. I mean, Don Staley went 15-0 this year. What if Lamont Paris doesn't? I mean, a lot of doors open on that one to
Very true.
interpret.
Very true. Very true.
803-404-6100. So now you're into, as we roll along, all right, spring football's over, no baseball this week. You into the NBA playoffs now?
It's here, man. It's here. And again, as I said earlier in the 6 o'clock, listen, if you don't like NBA regular season basketball, I can understand that. They don't play a lot of defense. The games can be kind of not as entertaining. But when you see the level of skill and want to on each and every possession in NBA playoffs, it's hard for me when I watch it not to get really interested inside. And then some interesting things are happening. I think we've just seen LeBron get old. It finally happened.
Just?
Yeah, he's still playing well. He still scored upwards. I think he scored 26 last night, I believe. He's still scoring points, but he just doesn't have that extra gear like he used to. He tried in the first game of the series against the Nuggets with our guy Jokic, who had 4 dunks in one game.
He was feeling it last night.
4 dunks in one game. But he tried to do that, that come from behind block on Jamal Murray. Just didn't have it in the tank. He tried. He got blown by. Yeah. He tried to go up. He just don't have it. And Anthony Davis is fine, but he's not the guy that they thought was going to carry the mantle for LeBron.
For me, and I don't know how you feel about this, it's really interesting because in what I would say I don't know if you call it the prime, but of my sporting life, people that I started watching when I was 20 in college to people that I'm watching now, they're retiring. Tom Brady. I'm watching Tiger Woods get old. I'm watching now LeBron James. He'll be 40 on December 30th this year. He'll play at least one more year, maybe 2. But all those guys that basically I'd say was my generation that I grew up watching, they're all stepping away from the game, the different sports. It really entertaining because I don't consider Jordan to be I'm
with you.
Like these are the guys, whether you liked them or disliked them, or you want to call LeBron a flopper, or whatever you want to call it. It's interesting, I think, for both of us now is the guys guys that either you knew playing that you've watched have NFL careers. I do say try to enjoy LeBron as much as possible.
Well,
because
yeah, you got 2 games left.
You do, yeah.
You got 2
I'll
games
give it.
left.
They win 1. They'll win 1. I'll say you get 3. They'll lose 4 games to 1. They've been there. They had a chance last night. They'll get 1 in L.A., but, yeah, I'm with you. They're done. More NBA playoffs tonight. I'll start banging the drum for the NHL playoffs.
That's another one.
Hurricanes rallied from down 3 last night. They were down 3-0 and came back and won 5-3. Heck of a matchup. See you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Bill Gunner for the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. As we roll through April, what are your thoughts on what are you going to do with your home this year? Are you thinking about purchasing? Are you thinking about upgrading your home? Are you thinking about refinancing? Maybe even thinking about building a brand new home? The first thing you need to do is see what First Palmetto Bank and Jacob Crowder can do for you. Give the mortgage guru a call today, 803-719-1005. First Palmetto Bank is locally owned and operated right here in the Midlands. So Jacob has local decision makers, which means quick and precise underwriting. And I know this to be a fact. A few years ago, I used Jacob Crowder myself. Everything went smoothly. All the paperwork was taken care of. Absolutely easy, fantastic experience, and he's ready to help you today. 803-719-1005. That's how you can get in touch with him. If the new year's bringing change, Jacob Crowder is the man to help you. Give the mortgage guru a call, 803-719-1005.
Your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game. Every second counts in a poison emergency. That's why Poison Help is standing by 24/7 to provide free assistance in over 100 languages. Poison Help is contacting your phone today. Poison Help, 1-800-222-1222. WIS-TV First Alert Traffic is sponsored by Wetzel's Automotive Equipment. Wetzel's Auto.com.
A wreck on Clemson Road at Hardscrabble. Also 302 north and southbound at Highway 6. Construction there. That'll slow you down. 20 eastbound at Broad River Road. That one's causing quite a problem for I-20 eastbound. Also 26 at Harbison Boulevard. That one just a slow down there, not in the roadway. Polo Road at 2 Notch. An accident there as well. The outlook for today, 75 under sunny skies. 80 for tomorrow. Partly cloudy, and then Thursday 79 for Friday, Saturday 82, Sunday 83, and not much chance of rain through all of that, so it looks good. This is Captain Dale.
9 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point / an extended Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs out at Firehouse Subs at Killian Crossing just off of I-77. Tyler Head, West Mitchell, Chris Clark going to be out here all morning long. Come by and see us as always. Store going to open up about 10:30. So come out and get some delicious Firehouse Subs. We got T-shirts, got koozies, the whole 9 yards, and certainly plenty to talk about today in reference to what happened on Saturday night with the spring game for South Carolina. Guys, we barely got to scratch the surface of everything that went into that game. Obviously, yesterday talked about some of the high points, quarterback competition. We obviously saw the North Sailors look really strong. Dylan Stewart looked really good coming off the edge of the line. But again, that is only a small part of the display of different talents we saw on the field on Saturday night.
Yeah, and guys, we didn't even get into those commitments either. I thought about that after the fact. So there was a lot going on over the weekend. Some recruiting momentum is something Chris and I have been talking about on GamecockCentral.com the last few days. And like y'all said, several guys that I thought had good days on Saturday that we didn't even really get to dive into. So looking forward to doing that. And one of those guys that I thought had a pretty good night, Chris, we, crossing our fingers, we're probably going to hear from them later on today. Is that right?
That is, from what I hear, a strong possibility, and I'm trying to get a triple confirmation on that.
Should we hold off on the teasing till we
I'm
know
gonna leave
for
it up
sure?
to Wes. She brought it up.
I'm going to trust that our guy's going to be here.
Okay. We are set to be joined by Monkel Goodwine here in a little bit. Obviously, one of the newer additions to the team, transferring over from Alabama at the end of the year, and on Saturday night went out there and made his presence known. And look, there was a lot of moving pieces, a lot of guys to pay attention to. But by the end of the game, you were very familiar with 44 on the defensive line for the performance he had.
It actually took me a second. I'm glad you said it like that, Tyler, because I had to train my brain like, all right, who's 44? And, it's a good one.
Not Gerald Dixon. Remember 44 Dixon?
44 Dixon. He was the defensive end Dixon, right?
Yes, that's correct. 92 Dixon was the other Dixon.
I believe Maurice Brown, he's 44 on offense.
He's
he
44
caught a touchdown
got a couple
44 at the end of the
Maurice
game.
Brown the second?
Yeah.
The second, sorry. Got to give him the full name there.
I don't think Monkel has a junior or a second or third in there. Although
we'll ask him.
Sounds like Monkel Goodwine the third would make a lot of sense, but
That's like country club. Just a country club name.
Just a regular name. But no, he and DeAndre Jules out there, man. I feel like